Example, the height in centimeters of a candle is a linear function of the amount of time in hours it has been burning. So if you look at the graph, notice that your x-axis represents time, and the y-axis represents the candle height. And that makes sense as time increases, meaning you're moving to the right, the height of the candle decreases, so the y values are going down. When graphed, the function gives a line with a slope of negative 0.4. Suppose that the height of the candle after 20 hours is 14 centimeters, which we have denoted there. What was the height of the candle after 12 hours? So 12 hours will be somewhere there, and we want to figure out what is the corresponding height. Okay, well, before we talk about how to do that, let's look at the slope and interpret what it means in the context of the problem. We're told that the slope of this line is negative 0.4. Okay, well, remember that slope can be, a number can be written as itself divided by 1. And we talked about slope representing the rise divided by the run. So the run is how you move in the x direction. So since this is positive, this means if we go right 1 unit on our graph, then the rise tells us how far up or down we're going to go. Since it's negative, we're going to be going down 0.4 units. Okay, so for every increase in x by 1, and notice that x represents the time in hours, so every hour the y values are going to decrease by 0.4. Well, the y represents the height of the candle in centimeters. So what the slope tells us is that every hour, and I'm going to put the number 1 in there for clarity, every 1 hour the height of the candle decreases by 0.4 centimeters. Okay. Well, we're trying to figure out what is the height of the candle after 12 hours. Well, if we knew an equation of the line that represents the burning time, and why don't we use the variable t? You can use x, but often you're going to see when you have an applied problem and x represents time, often the variable t will be used instead of x. And the candle height, instead of y, why don't we use h? Okay, so if we want to come up with an equation of our line, for our case, instead of y equals mx plus b, we're going to want it to be, instead of y, we're using h, is equal to our slope times our t value plus b. Okay, so we're going to go through the same steps we went through on the last page. We're going to plug in our value of slope, which is negative 0.4 times t plus b. And now we need a point to substitute in for t and h so that we can figure out what b is. Well, we have a point, and that point is 20, 14. So that's my t value and my h value. So our equation becomes 14 is equal to negative 0.4 times t, which is 20, plus b. So now you just go ahead and do that multiplication. Don't hesitate to use your calculator if you need to. So negative 0.4 times 20 gives us a negative 8. So 14 is equal to a negative 8 plus b. So when you add 8 to both sides to get b by itself, we end up with b is equal to 22. So the equation of our line is our height is equal to negative 0.4 times the time plus 22. So now we're ready to answer our question. We want to know the height of the candle after 12 hours. So 12 hours means that we want 12 to represent T. So we'll just plug that into our equation and see what the corresponding H, height, is. So negative 0.4 times 12 plus 22. So I'm putting this in my calculator, 12 times 0.4. So that's a negative 4.8 plus 22 gives us 17.2. So let's put our units in there. The height of the candle was 17.2 centimeters. So let's go back to our picture and see if that makes sense. So at 12 hours, when I drew that, you may have caught this when I did that initially. Since the candle has not been burning as long, it's going to have a bigger height. So 17.2 is somewhere up here. And that's going to be the corresponding height that goes with 12. Unlike how I drew it before. So this is a good illustration of why sometimes it's good to have the equation there so you can correct a mistake if you made one. Okay, let's go to the next example. Find the equation of the vertical line that passes through the points 5, 6, and it should be point because 5, 6 is a singular point. Then we're going to find the equation of the horizontal line that passes through the same point. So let's go ahead and draw our axes and get a visual of this. So the point 5, 6 is going to be located in the first quadrant. And we're starting off with the equation of the vertical line. So if we just look at a vertical line that goes through 5, we already know that the slope is undefined for a vertical line. But if you look at all of the points that are on this line, they all have an x value of 5, and every y value is taken on by that line. So when you write the equation of a vertical line, it's always going to be in the form x is equal to some number. And in this case, our number is 5. And that's the equation of our line. So a vertical line will not look like y equals mx plus b. It'll always be x is equal to a number. Well, let's look at a horizontal line going through that same point. Okay, so if we have a horizontal line and it's going through a y value of 6, since it's passing through that given point, notice that this line takes on every x value, but the y value never changes. The y is always equal to 0. So the equation of a horizontal line is always going to be in the form y is equal to whatever number you're given, and in this case, the y value is 6. Okay, so every vertical line will have an equation x equals the number that the line goes through, the x value. Horizontal line will always have the format y equals whatever the number is that the line goes through, the y value. The next topic we're going to be looking at is evaluating functions. A function is a rule in which every input has exactly one output. Think of a function as a machine. So if we put x into a function, and let's say that the name of this function is f, then the output is denoted by f of x. So the way that that is read is not fx, that is f of x. So note that f of x is the same thing as the single variable y. It's just another way to denote that output. It does not mean f times x.